Yesterday, when we left the Israelites, they had just come through the Red Sea that God had provided the dry land for them to walk through, and the Egyptians had been swallowed up by the waters and were no longer following them. So now we have the Israelites in the desert following Moses, and we're going to still be in Exodus. It's Exodus chapter 20. Today we're going to learn about the 10 commandments that God gave Moses. God had rescued the people of Israel from the Egyptians. They were now a free people. God had chosen Moses to lead the people across the desert back to the land of their fathers. The Israelites were going home. God was with them every step of the way. During the day, the Israelites followed a cloud that showed them where to go. At night, the cloud became a pillar of fire. God also took care of the Israelites by sending them food every day. He would send them special bread from heaven called manna that they could gather each day and eat. He also sent them meat. Even though the Israelites had both water and food, they were still cranky. So they were starting to be unhappy. Even though God was providing them with everything they needed, they were starting to be a little bit grouchy and grumpy about the things that they thought they should have and the things that they wanted instead of being happy with what God had provided. God would give Moses instructions for the people to obey. For example, when the manna fell from heaven, the people were to take just enough for that day. Some people didn't listen, and when they awoke the next morning, the food would smell and have worms crawling in it. God expected the people to obey his instructions. So he told them, I've given you all you need, but still some people weren't following directions and they took more than they needed. And by morning it was nasty and rotten and they couldn't eat it. God told Moses to lead the people to Mount Sinai. He was going to speak to the people. God is so holy that the people were not even allowed to touch the mountain. Moses went to the top of the mountain to meet with God. God was going to give Moses instructions or rules for the people of Israel. We know these rules today as the 10 Commandments. God wanted the Israelites to be faithful to him and to then be kind to those around him. So God's going to give them some rules, some things that they need to follow that he's going to provide to Moses, and then Moses is going to give them to the people as rules that they need to follow. So here's what the 10 commandments that God gave Moses were. First one was, God is the only true God. All other gods are not real and unable to help us. Only God loves us and cares for us. The second commandment was to not have any idols. This means we should not make a figure or statue to worship. And also it means that we shouldn't put anything before God, that God should be the most important thing to us. The third commandment is to not misuse God's name. This means not to use the name of God or Jesus when we are angry. The fourth commandment is to keep Sunday as a day set apart to rest and worship. God created the world in 6 days, but on the seventh day he rested. We should take time each week to worship God and honor him. The fifth commandment is to respect your mother and father. Your parents love you very much. It's important to obey and to listen to them. The sixth commandment is to not murder. We know that it's wrong to hurt or harm anyone else. We should treat others with kindness. The seventh commandment is to not commit adultery. This means that a husband and wife should love each other and stay faithful to each other. The eighth commandment is to not steal. It's not okay to take something that doesn't belong to you. The ninth commandment is to not lie. It's important to always tell the truth. It's not easy to be honest, but it's the right thing to do. And the 10th commandment is to not covet. Covet means wanting something that belongs to somebody else. And so if your friend has a new toy and you really want it and you're thinking, oh, I don't want them to have it because I want it to be mine, that's coveting. So of all the commandments, some of these are really important, especially when we're little or kids, and they're all important. But some of the ones that I think, like my kid, Anna, has a hard time following, like you have to be careful. You have to make sure that you're always telling the truth, even if it's hard. You have to make sure that you're doing what your mommy and daddy tell you to, even if you don't want to. And you have to make sure that when you're angry, you take time to calm down and think about what you're saying so you don't say something mean and hurtful. So God loves us, his children. He wants us to make good choices. By loving God and loving those around us, we will make better choices. It's not always easy to do the right thing, but God can help us. When we do make bad choices, we can always ask God to forgive us Okay, so as I was just saying, that even when we do something wrong, we can always ask God to forgive us. And we need to ask other people to forgive us too. So if we do say something out of anger to somebody that we shouldn't have, or we do tell a lie, or we do forget that we're supposed to listen to our mommies and daddies and we argue with them, or we do something they told us not to, we need to ask them to forgive us and also pray to God and ask Him to forgive us as well. So in your packet today, right here it says, God desires that we make good choices and obey His word. So in your packet today is a cut and paste activity where you get to decide what a good choice might be or a bad choice might be. Now, the things that are listed there are things that usually happen at school, but they're also things that you just have to, you can use to decide if it's a good choice or a bad choice. So after you've decided on the ones that are listed there, maybe you could talk with mommy and daddy about some things at home that are also good choices and bad choices. So just remember that God always loves us, always will forgive us, and He just wants us to follow His rules, His directions, His guidance, and make the best choices we can. Okay, have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.